All right, if you're anyone that is in the know of what's going on in Legends, then you know that at this point, there is a lot of discussion going around Goku Black and his performance. A lot of it stemming from Goresh's video outlining a lot of the faults of the character. First of all, highly recommend that you go ahead and watch that video because a lot of important points are made in detail that will really help emphasize where this character is going wrong. And in an effort to avoid this video being a regurgitation of everything Goresh just said, we actually have Goresh here to go ahead and talk about this character even further. Goresh, say hi.
Hello, appreciate you having me on.
I think the first thing we should start with is what are some key points that you made in your video for this character's faults?
Yeah, so I think if I was going to boil it down to just two things, the first one would be, I guess, more so talking about his new mechanic that he's introducing, which is the anti-cover change debuff that he's applying to the whole enemy team. So he applies that at the beginning of the fight for 15 counts, and he also applies it once his gauge is activated. The reason why I don't think this is very important is because most characters, if you're good as a character that's releasing somewhere in 2024, you're going to have special cover change nullification built into your kit anyway. So there's not really a lot of value there. And at the end of the day, the only character really gaining value from that is himself, because he doesn't have other ways to get cover null outside of him transforming. He gets on his main when he transforms, but that's it. So I think that is a big problem, him just not having access to just basic cookie cutter special cover change nullification. And he's sort of granted this in the form of a very strange debuff that they're trying to be cute with this, and it's just, I don't think it's working out very well. And then the second thing is his unique gauge is very strangely designed. It's a unique gauge that you would expect to reset by itself, and in fact, even the English description, when this guy came out for a few hours, said that it did reset by itself, and then they changed the wording. But that is his entire defensive capability is essentially based around this unique gauge. Number one, Vegito Blue just completely nullifies every single disrupt aspect of the unique gauge. And then number two, he's only getting the unique gauge activated once, and it is very difficult to dump it, to reset the gauge. Right? You have to use a blue card or land a green card, and it's not just easy as 1, 2, 3, because you have to get priority. You have to actually land these cards, and you have to sacrifice screen time from other characters like Vegito Blue, like Majin Vegeta, like Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, who you're going to be wanting to combo with. And so you're kind of setting them to the side for a second just to detour and reset the gauge, just for you to be able to actually take advantage of a lot of his defensive utility and disrupt abilities. So those are the two things that I think are kind of the highlights in terms of where I see areas where he's just not as impressive as he should be.
Now, I'm glad you brought up those characters, because for the audience, I think it's fair to for us to say that we understand gacha games are going to have power creep. It's their way of motivating you to care about a character coming down the line. For Goku number 430, it's the way that they get you to keep spending, because you're going to want that character that's far more powerful. There are two parts in the year where we can all agree power creep is to be expected: the anniversary and Legends Festival, because they serve as the biggest celebrations for the game. And the characters, both in terms of hype and capabilities, should reflect that. So for Goku Black, a lot of comparisons are being made between him and characters like Super Baby 2, because he is inheriting the unique gauge that Super Baby 2 has. Now, with the point of power creep, you would assume that, okay, if he's going to inherit those behaviors, then I would assume his is going to be a superior version of his. But that's not even the case here. If we take a look at Super Baby 2's unique gauge, you'll see, like Goresh pointed out, that when it's full, he will draw a blue card, making it easier for him to dump the unique gauge back to 0. But even beyond that, he can take away Vanish, and he seals main abilities, giving him a leg up over Goku Black's unique gauge that doesn't even provide those behaviors. But even worse is when you start taking a look at the way that he dumps the unique gauge. For Super Baby 2, if the unique gauge is full, it'll reset his unique gauge to 0 regardless of the blue card landing or not. But if we take a look at our friend Goku Black, the blue card has to land. Oh, wait, no, wait. If unique gauge is full, resets on unique gauge to 0 and following effects occur on hit. Oh, sorry. Sorry, that's for the green card. For the green card,
yeah.
For the green card, you're able to miss it, but the green card itself is a long animation, so there's no winning there. But for the blue card, I'm pretty sure you have to hit it. Applies the following effects to enemy on hit. If unique gauge is full, resets it to 0 and the following effects occur upon activity. Oh, wait. Am I getting it wrong?
I'm pretty sure you don't have to land the blue card, but the problem with the blue card is the vanish restoration only happens once.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the main issue with it. Like, that's actually a really strong... His blue card is really strong the first time you use it, but then you don't even get... Like, it restores 100% vanishing gauge when you first use it. I think after the first one, it should just be 70. Like, not... Like, moving it down from 100, I think, is fine, but at least still give it some vanish restore, because that's, like, the majority of the value of the blue card there.
Yeah, but even then, if people, I guess there are some arguments that people make where it says, for Goku Black, because he has multiple ways of dumping the unique gauge, you could argue it is superior to Super Baby 2's. But obviously the counter argument to that is the easier ability for Super Baby 2 to dump it, but also the fact that his own unique gauge provides methods to dump it, whereas for Goku Black, the blue card and green card are not necessarily guaranteed, even if Super Baby 2 can do it with his ultimate as well. There are just more avenues for Baby to pull it off versus Goku Black. But then there's also things like his base form green card. If we go ahead and look at him in base form, the closest comparison to this green card is Super 17. It feels like a melee version of the Super 17 green card where he absorbs the Ki Blast. But if you take a look at what Goku Black does, one of the most obvious ones is inflicts all enemies with 3 substitution counts. But if you compare it to what Super 17 does, he inflicts them with no switching for 3 timer counts. It's 2 wildly different things. In Goku Black's case, if you use that green card and you just so happen to draw a blue because you are drawing 4 new cards, the character is able, your opponent is able to swap out. If they have any sort of subcount manipulation, they're able to get out. And even
the one thing I think that's really different between Goku Blacks and Super 17s is Goku Blacks doesn't seal main abilities.
Yeah.
So I actually had one instance, like, because Super 17s does seal main abilities. I had one instance where I actually landed the green card with Goku Black on a Vegito Blue, and he just simply transformed and vanished me.
Yeah.
Because he gets his vanish back. I think a good comparison with this green card actually is Super Baby 2's green card, because it's very similar. And the main difference between Goku Black in base form and Super Baby 2 is the counter is very similar, but Super Baby 2 has blast armor on his strike cards. Mm-hmm. And what that means is if you're sitting in mid-range with Super Baby 2, you can counter the enemy's blast cards, strike cards, tackles, or essentially anything they're doing. Whereas with Goku Black, the enemy just blast cards you can't do anything about it. So.
Yeah, it's no matter how you look at it, he seems to be having a watered down version of pre-existing mechanics that doesn't make sense for a festival headliner. His should be better in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think one thing to remember is that when we say these characters are underwhelming or undertuned, it doesn't mean that they're bad, right? It doesn't mean that you can't win with the character. Like, I would even say in God rank, you're going to be seeing people using Goku Black. It doesn't mean you can't use him in God rank. So I think for most players, it's not going to be as big of a deal. But when you're comparing the best of the best to each other, this guy's probably going to be towards the lower end of the best, is what we mean. Yeah.
And then even worse is, opportunities. Some of the issues that he has are just glaring oversights as well. If you think about it, his methods of getting type neutral are pretty much non-existent as well, which makes no sense in this current meta, especially with a lot of characters having buff removal anyways. It wouldn't be out of the question to say he should have multiple ways of going type neutral that isn't just his post-transformation main ability. I mean, even Super Baby 2, going back to him, he goes type neutral with his green card. He doesn't even have to land the green card. He will simply go type neutral. His blue card with the full gauge, he will go type neutral as well. It makes no sense for a mechanic so similar from a character that released so long ago. I guess so long ago in the case of a gacha is like a couple of months. It doesn't make sense for the character's mechanics to go backwards. There's no justification for it. Even if you argue it's because Goku Black is able to provide this, this new cover nullification debuff, and or they were concerned with him having endurance plus buff removal, it just doesn't make sense. The oversights in what he's able to do not make up for some of the pluses that he has right now.
I think so. He goes type neutral defensively when he switches in, and then when he fills the gauge up for like 10 counts or something like that. He also gets 10. I don't know why they did this. So this day and age, they're giving essentially every single character additional damage reduction versus specific damage types. Usually it's impact damage.
Yeah.
This guy gets impact and slice damage reduction by 10% for 10 counts when he switches in. When this character is specifically a character that wants to be sitting there and eating damage, taking cards to build up his unique gauge. By the time you are actually like halfway through eating a combo, that's gonna fall off. It's gonna expire. So you're not even that's kind of like a baseline effect we would expect to see on any character, let alone a defensive character. And then I think one other thing just to mention too is for this unique gauge, if they're not going to have it reset, it should have provided some benefit to being maxed out. Right. The only benefit the unique gauge has from actually getting maxed out are the effects that it has from hitting the 100% mark. You don't really benefit at all from just having it remain at 100%. Besides, the effects that come with dumping the gauge with the blue card and green card, which I would argue are not even strong enough anyway. But he should have at least had like permanent type neutral if the gauge was full. He should have had permanent double card draw speed if the gauge was full. When I say permanent, I mean as long as it's full. Maybe when the gauge is full, he should have been healing 3% per card received. There's just something missing with this unique gauge because it seems like he gets the effects active when it fills up for the first time, and then for 40% of the match, with you being unable to dump it, it's just sitting there and almost is worthless. So it just feels bad.
Even, you know what? They should have just made it switch to being provided some sort of offensive utility. Even if the unique gauge was full, it should have been able to provide him like, okay, here's 5 or 10 timer counts of cover nullification for free. At least put it somewhere where it makes sense synergistically. But like you said before, the fact that he doesn't have it anywhere and it hinges on the debuff or him transforming just seems so backwards when so many characters just have better versions of almost everything that he does.
Yeah, or even some kind of support too, because that's also another thing that Baby brings to the table that this guy does not, is Baby gives the 30% damage to Saiyan support. This Rose has no support at all, besides just the cover null thing, which doesn't matter.
And you would think that Rose would be a character to get that too. Seems pretty appropriate.
Well, he's a character that, like, I was thinking what they would do is, so he has this really ancient mechanic, which I'm shocked they gave him this, where he's going to be getting damage inflicted whenever he takes a hit. That's something we saw on like purple base form Goku Black and like purple transforming Cooler had this in like 2018, right? And it's like, I did not expect for that to get a revival on this character, but at least what they could have done is they could have made that a team-wide buff, right? He gets 40% damage for 15 counts whenever he takes a hit. Why not just have it be team-wide? It's a lot of damage, but sure, why not?
Yeah, I don't know. There are some, now I know, while, just keeping up with the discussion, I have seen some arguments saying like, okay, for the unique gauge, we should be grateful that it doesn't reset by default on its own so quickly, because 25% healing would essentially mean that this character cannot be killed paired alongside the destroy enemy card stuff. But I would argue that within the last couple of months, they've been spamming characters that reduce health restoration, and Goku Black is not immune to that kind of debuff. So that would be a non-issue. You'd be able to deal with that no problem. Even the Vegito in his base form, his green card just applies health restore debuff to everybody for free.
Yeah, there's a lot of healing debuffs. Mai does it, Turles does it, Triomite Goku does it, Majin Vegeta does it. Like almost every meta character in some way has some kind of health restoration debuff. Yeah. I don't know if they would keep the same effects. Like if they were going to have this thing and they adjusted the character to have him have his gauge automatically reset, I think they probably would tone down the effects a little bit. It probably wouldn't be 25% healing. It'd probably be like 15 or 20%, but it would definitely make the character a lot better because he needs some kind of way to consistently be sustaining himself, as opposed to this very erratic, inconsistent way right now where his gauge fills up and then who the hell knows when he's going to get his gauge filled up again, right?
Yeah, him not having cover null means that now you aren't even sure if you're going to be able to combo properly with him and all this other stuff put together. But this is all to say that for a festival headlining character, for them to release him with such obvious issues is just, reflective of a lot of the releases that happened throughout this year. And I guess the biggest objective of this video is to bring more awareness to it, and hopefully the developers see it alongside your video to say, Maybe we should be doing a little bit more rigorous testing here, because a lot of the characters that people pay for or dedicate a lot of time farming chrono crystals to get are not measuring up to the expectations that they have, and it isn't right to them or the game itself to be going backwards like this.
This is actually something that I do want to do a very long discussion on at some point. I think once we sort of get into part 2 or part 3, maybe taking a look back at the year and actually seeing which characters did not meet expectations. Because I think over the course of a year, I mean, if we just take 2023 and we look at that year, I would say essentially, well, I mean, unfortunately, the Boo Duo did not meet the standard I think that most people were expecting. But if you, like, with the exception of the Boo Duo, I think most other releases were in the ballpark for what we were expecting.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, if you look at the entire release schedule for a whole year, you're probably inevitably going to have 1 or 2 characters that just barely miss the mark or don't, you know, aren't at the level where we would want them to be. This year, we had like 4 or 5 that didn't meet that mark, which is certainly an anomaly. Like something's wrong with the design process when you got 4 or 5 major releases during the year that just aren't at the level where they should be. Something's going on. So that's a problem. Yeah, I would agree.
I'll never be able to stomach down the injustice that happened to the Boo Duo. There were so many issues in their design that made me so upset. Even something as simple as the sustained damage cut penetration, like you don't even get the full benefit of that buff when preparation mode is going off. Just small things like that don't make any sense. If you were to use the character and test it, you'd be like, huh, when this character is supposed to be at its most powerful, they aren't even able to leverage all of the benefits that they would get from the tag switching. That is clearly an oversight. We have to reduce it by 1. But they didn't do that until they got a Zenkai Awakening. So there's just a lot of that. And that's the unfortunate reality of it. Hopefully this makes it a lot easier for you guys to understand why the character is, you know, just not measuring up to what we should have expected. It's a festival headliner, should have been better. Even though it's an exciting pick, the performance has to reflect the hype of the character as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Goresh, any final thoughts?
We'll see what happens in parts 2 and 3. Maybe this guy maybe they release a monster purple. Who knows? We'll see. But then Majin Vegeta would just be there too. So
my ultimate cope for this is, I think I've said this to you before as well, that well, first of all, the anniversary, 6-year anniversary, I'm pretty sure the part 1 characters sometimes give a clue on how they're going to be countering the Ultra. So in, you know, Anniversary's case, we had the Assault Chain, which was designed to counter out, you know, these countering gauges. And because he was yellow, I would assume, you know, counters out UG4. With VB's case and his unique gauge specifically going out its way to say that it also counters evasive maneuvers, I'm willing to bet an Ultra Blue MUI with some crazy obnoxious behaviors is going to be what's coming at the last point. That's why I think for Rose, the cope is maybe this MUI, you know, he just overwrites cover nullification that all the characters have, but Rose's cover, unique cover change preventing debuff is the only answer to stop a character like that from performing it, thus giving him value. But I guess you could argue like that's still crap. Having that one singular thing be his call to fame is still kind of crap.
Yeah, maybe he's red too. So, you know, instead of being blue,
you
maybe he's red and Rose maybe he just falls off harder. We never know. We'll see.
Okay, well, that's gonna be it from us. Thank you guys for watching. But until next time, peace.